A common misconception about the many tribulations I cover for Gossip Gaunt are assumed to be that it's almost always revolving the students. Oh, if only it were that simple. What if I told you that our own teachers have their own tales worth telling? Some of it is quite intriguing. All right now, I won't keep you in suspense. Do let this lesson be now in session. Professor Heckert has always been one of the Sallow's favourite teachers. Sebastian especially, as he took fast to duelling. On other topics, Heckert is herself rather much of a mystery. She used to be an unspeakable for the ministry, but as is within the job, she cannot elaborate on her work. I do have some theories, though. Her classroom seems to be described as surrounded by clocks as well as mirrors. She is said to look far older, despite being the same year as Professor Black. And she spends quite a lot of her time gazing into her reflection, almost as if she is witnessing her true self beyond it. My guess was she worked with time turners until something went wrong, only resulting in her becoming a victim of time itself. I suppose we will never know the truth. I do have plenty of questions regarding the werewolf in the room. However, I suppose that's for another time. Professor Sharp, not favourable among the many students for how strict he is. I've heard talk that he sought out this position so he could try to cure his leg, but he's found no success. Anyhow, I can certainly vouch I'm awful in potions, and Sebastian doesn't favour his broody personality either. Anne was truly the only one that excelled in his class, and had a knack for the subject out of us three. Despite his demeanour, I've actually heard that some students favour him a bit much. I'm not rather sure why, but I have heard gossip that supports a theory I have on why this is the case.
Professor Sharp asked me what the ingredients are for an Ali Hotzi draft, and I could not stop giggling. Most embarrassing. And appropriate, I suppose.
Have you ever noticed in potions that the girl who sits in the corner almost always nearly melts her cauldron? I find it quite disconcerting, and Sharp doesn't even raise an eyebrow. Yet I drop one nettle too many and I get the stare of the basilisk.
She is the prettiest professor, I'll give you that. As pretty as Sharp is handsome.
Rather interesting and concerning perspectives. Well, to each their own, I suppose. Professor Ronan, a fairly pleasant man. I really do admire how he always finds a way to make lessons rather fun, yet is still strict on ensuring we learn the material. A true breath of fresh air for most Slytherins I grew up with before Hogwarts. That being said, it would still be best not to cross him. He, as well as Heckert, do have discipline devices present in the classroom. And I'm certain they're not there just for pure decorative purposes. Professor Fig. Very well, I must admit, I'm not quite actually sure what exactly Fig teaches. I don't even quite remember the last time he's been here in the castle. It's been a while since Sebastian, Anne and myself have had a class of his, and we just can't remember. And new Niffler doesn't seem to know either, despite being one of the few that has met with him about her class progress. I believe that's all there is to say, actually. I would have thought he, too, was a ghost at this point. Professor Garlick. As debilitating as I personally find her class, I actually find her to be quite kind. Questionable circumstances of what transpired with the last herbology professor aside, she really has a deep love and talent for these plants. And that is admirable, if I must admit. Can't say I share that interest for herbology or potions. Speaking of interests, did you know she and Lenora's aunt have been writing letters to each other for a while now? I discovered this because the new Niffler tends to read to herself a little loudly. I do wish her the best in her endeavours. Not sure how a plant will charm someone, though. Sebastian had read once to me in the common room that flowers usually do the trick when trying to charm someone, which is interesting, as that is not really something he seemed to care for until this year. Regardless, I wish her well. Shah's constant quarrel with Onai. Despite Natsai's thoughts on me, which we will dissect at another time, I do feel for Professor Onai. Ever since her arrival our 4th year, she has been constantly receiving letters from Professor Shah about her class. You'd think from the outside perspective it's the average chatter about work. However, these letters read a bit like, well, have a few examples, if you will.
Dear Professor Onai, I understand that you're gifted as a seer, but I so highly suggest you set clear some boundaries in your teachings that fortunes can't be seen in the stars. Also, this nonsense of star signs dictating people's personalities, then about how this helps people be compatible with each other. Such delusions. I certainly don't teach this, but I assume this comes from something within your lessons. Professor Onai, Today I caught 2 students practicing yet more fortune readings in my class, thinking the two correlate. These two are not the same. I teach on facts that have been present in the sky from long before any of us. You teach mostly on little differing beliefs. I do once again advise that you correct your teachings. I don't quite understand why we even have divination as a teaching if it only entertains delusions among our students. Onai, I swear on the stars if you do not...
We can just say both classes do not work well together. I could go on further on about the other professors. As such is the case, I believe I've covered the most interesting topics as of now regarding them. There is, however, one more I will be writing about, but that will need its own gossip gaunt, I'm afraid. For now, I leave you all with this. Until next time.
Has anyone seen Duncan? I finally agreed to let him borrow some of my astronomy notes, and he has not yet returned them.
Oh, about that. I believe he's going to be in Howin's class for some time after last Transfiguration class.
What? Until when?
That, my friend, is an excellent question. I do not know.
You know, perhaps I don't find Gareth to be so often reckless after all.